Okay. I think before I tell you my story, I think it's just important to also understand your worth, but also to be worth what you're asking.
Exactly.
Right. Because you can't just come and ask for a raise if you are not adding value to the company that you're working for. And then so that at least if you know you're adding value and you know the value that you're adding, when you ask for a raise, there's a starting point, So I have asked for a raise, and it went quite well for me. I won't lie, but hey guys, this is Anizu, aka Nyati Shonga.
Hello, my name is Chido, aka Chizzy. Wagwan, Advocate Amanda here. Hi everyone, this is Kuda, aka Cooks. Hi, and welcome to As Told by Us, the podcast. This is a weekly podcast where 4 professional millennials discuss living in Zimbabwe and trying to figure life out.
Someone once told us the grass is much greener on the other side.
But from where we're standing, our grass is green. Subscribe, like, share, comment down below.
Hi, everybody. We're back with episode 7. Today's episode is going to be a bit on the serious side. Today, we're speaking to all the girlies in the house, especially the corporate girlies, and we're going to take you through a few of our own tips for your first job or your first time entering into the job market after school or after, being a kid, and then all of a sudden you're jumping into the adult world and the adult environment. So these are just a few things that we wish that we knew, or there's a few things that we did that worked for us in starting out your career. We have to start with a small disclaimer. One of us decided to be sick today. So when you hear this voice, hey, don't worry about it. Okay, so let's go. All right. So we'll just jump straight into it. We're gonna talk about things you should know when you're entering into your first job. Firstly, set some goals. I think it's important to frame yourself. I think the temptation when you first start working is that, especially if you take a while to get a job, once you get in, you kind of feel like, finally I have a job, you've arrived, and that's the end of it. That's literally the opposite. You getting a job is just the beginning of your career. So it's very important for you to actually sit down and think about, 1, what do you want to do in this organization that you're in? And 2, what do you want to do yourself with your overall career? Some jobs, especially if it's your first job, it's either going to be, I want to get into this organization. This is exactly what I want. I want to make it to the top of there. Or it's going to be this, I want to do something else in the end. And this is the place where I'm going to build my skills. You need to make that decision and you need to know what it is that you want. Because if you don't decide what you want, the world's going to decide for you. So just before we get into the next one, let's talk about it a bit, guys. So how do you guys feel about your first job? Was it like your perfect job, or was it just, I found something to do, let me just do it?
my first job was definitely, I found something to do, so let me just do it. And I've always been that person that has very, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And my first job had nothing to do with what I had told myself I was going to do.
What was your first job?
Oh, my first job. So I was fortunate to be, let me say this first. I was fortunate because I was applying at law firms and I hadn't received responses, right, from my law firms. So when this opportunity came, I said, you know what? What's the harm? At least a job is a job. right? And it was, I'm grateful for it only because it gave me, quote unquote, gap year straight after uni, right? But it had nothing. It had nothing to do with.
What was it?
I can't.
Yeah,
I remember. I remember what you did first.
I was more so okay. I was an office manager. That's what I was. I was an office manager. I was assisting this company that was coming from South Africa to establish a presence in Zimbabwe, right? So I was hired to be part of the staff. I mean, there's only 2 people, but I was part of the staff and just trying to get connections and establish their footprint here in Zim. But what did I know? I knew nothing. So a lot of it for me was just, okay, answer phone calls, respond to emails, set up a meeting. You know, it was like basic office admin more so than that it wasn't legal. Right. I did do I drafted an NDA. I drafted our own employment contracts. You know, that was the only legal thing that I did. But because I was very clear I decided to be a lawyer when I was 11. So because I was very clear about my path, after the year was over, I was like, okay, I'm going back to law. And then I started doing my applications. At least now I was physically in the country. I could then do my applications. And then I got the job at the firm that I wanted because, like you said, I had a very clear... I knew I wanted this law firm because I knew that it would take me on the trajectory of where I wanted my life to go. So I picked it very carefully because I had also... What I did... Before I finished uni, so do you know how you get those holidays between the breaks? I would come back to them and I would work at this firm that I wanted to work at later, right? So I knew they knew me, I knew the culture, right? That's and good. Even though they put me through, I had to do a test or whatever after uni, it wasn't, I even knew how to answer the question because I knew the kinds of what they were looking for because I'd already worked there. I think I worked there for 2 or 3 years before I finished uni, during my gap. During my breaks, yeah.
That's smart. I think that's a good one because I feel like a lot of people feel like I've spoken to a lot of students especially who are waiting to finish their degree so that they can start looking for a job. And I'm like, what are you waiting for? You need to start now, asking questions, going to places, like you said, doing this VAC work. I think that's one thing that I didn't do that I wish I did do. Really doing that. She talked. Yes, Chido.
I was gonna say the same thing. I didn't participate in VAC work and all that. So when I left uni, it was starting from scratch. And I wish now that I had actually gone out there. I wish I had gone out there to look for VAC work. It sounds right now that it sounds like I'm crying, but I'm not.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing a miracle.
Her voice is back! Her voice is back!
Just 10 minutes ago, I couldn't speak.
I think we need to test a version of Chido's voice. So,
hello.
Chido, speak louder.
Say how now, brown cow. Huh? How now, brown cow. How now, brown cow. How?
When did you start your first job?
20. Oh wait, my first job was at Rhodes. At university. As a waitress.
she's back.
Wow.
Shout out to the whiskey.
Shout out to Jack Daniels.
Wow.
All right. So
I did actually do spec work. So firstly, I didn't know what I wanted to do in uni. My dad was like, "You're good at arts. Just do this." So I did, and then after our first holidays for first year, I went and worked at a law firm. And that's when I realized, this law firm business is not for me. So when I did come back, I knew I wasn't going to work. I knew I was going to, if I had found a job, I knew I was going to work at a law firm, but for a very specific time. I didn't want to be there for
Why?
I don't think I'm a high pressure type of person.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm not a high pressure type of person. Although working in a company, there are pressures there, but I think I'm better at juggling those than juggling partners and the drama of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think, like you said, it is definitely important to set the goal ahead of time. So don't set the goal post-uni. Set the goal before uni. Even as you go through, when you're picking your electives, pick the ones that will get you to where you want to go, right? And I knew, again, like I said, I knew very early what I wanted to do. So all my electives were very corporate. When I went into this firm that I chose, I focused on corporate, even though they are a litigation law firm. They do other things. I said, I'm only focusing on corporate. I'm not doing convincing. I'm not doing IP. I'm not doing litigation, only corporate. And then even after leaving that place, my next law firm is a corporate law firm. It strictly does corporate. And I knew also I wanted to do tax, so I chose tax as an elective in uni, just to put me ahead, right? So the goal was set way before I probably even entered uni in the first place. But I think once I started doing my subjects in uni, I said, okay, no, I like this. I don't like that. I don't like procedure, so I'm never going to do litigation. I like tax. Tax is fun. I like contract law. Actually, I could do this, So even as I was now trying to navigate uni, I was now picking and saying, okay, this is something I can do in the future. This is something that I can do. Then I started my research. And then I said, what firms can do what I want to do.
Yeah, that's good. So, Kuda, just to take you back to your first job, which wasn't necessarily directly linked to your actual goals. I know I also did a lot of piece things, especially when you're in uni or before that. I think my first job where I had to go and show up, I was actually an eco-cash agent at my dad's shop.
What?
Because it was a time where I think eco-cash was a new thing.
You were opening eco-cash?
Yeah, so they had just gotten their agency license to start doing that cash in, cash out thing. So I think it was one of those where I guess it was going to be a mission to train the people there. And I was there at school on holidays, so they were like, all right, come to the shop and do that. So I was there, the aunties, they come, you want to deposit this, and then put it in, spend the whole day. So just from that perspective, and also I'm sure you guys also have done things that are not related to your actual profession. Do you regret those experiences where you find yourself in a place that you didn't think or a thing that you didn't think you'd be doing?
No, I don't regret it, honestly. So my very, very first job, I was 10 or 9. My dad had a business. So me and all my siblings used to go work for my dad during the holidays, the school holidays. Because I was young, I was receptionist, admin, tea girl, And I mean, shame, good on him, he paid me. But I think on its own, what that was supposed to teach us was a work ethic, So, finance holiday, you're not sleeping, you're going to work. You need to know what working feels like. You need to understand. We're still, because it was at that point a family business, you also need to understand how business works, right? And then we owned a restaurant at some point, and I used to do, I was a waitress, and then I was a cashier, and then, all of that, and I used to cook. And now, even when it came to me starting my own catering business, what I pulled was from the days that I was the waitress. And so I understand clients. I understand what people like to eat. I understand how people like food to be prepared. I understand the accounting of it, right? So that's been very useful in my own business. And then I always feel like even if you're doing something that you don't necessarily like, there's always a lesson in it. There's something that you can take from it that will teach you. Maybe it will teach you accounting. Maybe it will teach you marketing. Maybe it will teach you just basic organizational skills. Something will teach you something, you know?
That's true.
Yeah, that's very true. Maybe it'll teach you what you don't want to do with your life.
Like, that's
because there's some jobs where I'm like, ooh, I'm doing this for the money. Basically, and I would never do this in the long run.
For me, that was waitressing. That was the worst.
I hated it.
The worst thing I've ever done.
But I think it taught me soft skills, which I then needed in a law firm, in the sense that, like, people can just come at you. I remember being a waitress and people would be like, where's my tea? And I'm like, nigga, this is not a restaurant.
Wait, do you need context?
Yeah, please explain. Please explain.
Where were you waitressing?
So we used to waitress at like the university conferencing events, right? So they would just like ask students to come in and bring out the food for whatever guests. So it's not a restaurant. It's just an event, right? And we're just getting paid our peanuts to just serve people. But then those guys don't understand that, look, this is not a full service catering kind of thing. So that old people will just come to you and be like, "Oi, where's my tea?" And you're like, this is not a restaurant. So I think it taught me soft skills, like just how to deal with people, with problematic clients or people who expect a little bit too much.
Yeah. I think that takes us into our next tip. I think one thing I also always say to interns especially, you realize in the job market that people skills are like more than 90% of the job.
Absolutely.
You can be excellent, but if you're in hole, you're not going to make it far in your career. Because if you're an unpleasant person, you don't know how to work with people, you're, overly aggressive, or you're just not pleasant, you're not going to make it far in your career. So don't learn it the hard way. But people skills is everything that you're going to need. One thing that we put also as a tip, get clear on your contractual terms. I think once you get into your job, a lot of people don't think about this part when you actually have a contract or you don't have a contract. You have to think about, you just have to have a basic understanding of labor laws and how you're regulated. Don't wait until you're in a situation where, you're now fighting with your boss or having a bad situation. At least understand the basics, know what your expectations are going into the job, your working conditions, your entitlements, what benefits you have. Because no one is actually going to come and tell you to say, hey, did you know that you're actually supposed to be getting medical aid and you actually haven't been claiming it all along? For me, I think that was one thing, especially when you get a job, you're just so excited. Oh my gosh, I actually got the job. I made it. And then you just kind of get into this attitude of, oh, I'm just happy to be here. And you don't actually clock that I'm actually providing a service and I'm being paid to be here. You're not doing anybody a favor. And so I think, especially for girls, I think it's easy to get into this, oh man, thank you so much for just having me. And then you feel almost apologetic and you get into a space where you're not used to asserting yourself and knowing where you stand. The sad thing about this world is a lot of employers will take advantage of that. And if you don't ask for, they say a closed mouth doesn't get fed. If you don't ask for what you want, if you don't know what you're entitled to, you can be taken advantage of in the job market. So just a question here, guys. Who has ever asked for a raise? And how did you do it?
I have. I've asked for it. Okay, I think before I tell you my story, I think it's just important to also understand your worth, but also to be worth what you're asking.
Exactly.
Right? Because you can't just come and ask for a raise if you are not adding value to the company that you're working for. And then so that at least if you know you're adding value and you know the value that you're adding, when you ask for a raise, there's a starting point, you know. So I have asked for a raise, and it went quite well for me. I won't lie, but also with the people skills, I understood my boss. I know how to approach my boss. So when I said it in a way that I knew he could receive it.
So did you say, formal email to whom it may concern?
No.
I hereby request a meeting to discuss the increase of my salary. Or did you do a more casual approach? I know it depends on your boss, but then I think just to...
It was very casual. I had a conversation with him and I said, hey, listen, I think but also it was very contextual. So let me maybe explain the background. When I started at my job, I was new. There were people that were there before me, also associates. And so when I was offered an amount, I took it because for me, I was like, okay, cool, right? Then I started working and then I was like, wait a minute. Kind of feel like other people are getting paid more than me. Why? Right? And so that was the conversation that I had to say, I feel like I bring as much value as everybody else. And obviously when I started, I didn't know how much, when they ask you that, how much do you expect to get paid, in your interview? I said an amount. And to be fair, that's the amount that they gave me. But I didn't know that, other people were a little bit more up than me. So now that I know and I have shown my worth, I think at the very least I should be remunerated as everybody else. Right. Then...
How much lower were you?
I wasn't that much lower. I wouldn't lie. I wasn't that much lower. But it just didn't seem fair. The fact that I was. It didn't seem fair.
Yeah.
And then as things go on, right, and Zimbabwe gets harder and the rate does what the rate does and life does what life does, then we had to revisit the conversation again to say... Have you seen the prices in the market? Have you seen how much sugar costs? And I feel like perhaps there's a little room for a little, for a little bit more because life is hard out there in the streets. And I think depending on how you approach the situation and how you speak to the person obviously responsible, the way you say it, and back to people skills, the way you say it determines how it's received. And again, it was received quite well because I understand my boss, and I think he's a reasonable person. He's not unreasonable, but sometimes you kind of have to probe and say, "Ish."
I was gonna say, I think it also speaks to your boss and the kind of person that he is, the kind of boss that he is. I think you rightfully said that he is reasonable. I think that there are a lot of people out there who aren't that lucky, whereby even if you were to go and deliver this request with, impeccably, they'll still, maybe they'll take it personally, or they'll think it's an attack on them or whatever. So I think it also speaks to your boss, and as you rightfully said, he's reasonable and you know how to approach him. Yeah.
But you see, at the end of the day, guys, I think a lot of people need to understand that from an employer's perspective, a lot of these people are trying to keep their numbers down. Because while we can give him credit, Kuda's boss, for having received it well, let's talk about why they paid her less just because she said less. You know the going rate for what you guys are paying. But the fact that they were comfortable saying, oh, we're going to save an extra $300 because she is comfortable with that, good. You know, it just speaks to that dynamic to say you must always remember that these people, they're not your friends. You're just an expense to them. You're just a number. And, you know, it's not every job that you're going to get where you're going to get an environment where people are reasonable and will think of you and will be the ones to say, no, but how are you surviving on this? Let's add you, let's cushion you. For me, I think the best jobs are the ones where you don't even have to ask for a raise. The revision comes before you even ask for it. But that's not every day. That's not every situation. So that balance, it's
I
tricky.
think also like another pro tip for that is before you go to interviews, actually ask if you know someone who works at that firm or who works in a specific area that you want to go into, like a specific company. Try to ask, because where I work, everyone works on like bands.
Yeah.
Everyone has a specific grade. So if you say, I want to come in as a graduate trainee, graduate trainees get paid a specific amount. It might differ depending on company, but for the industry, it's that specific amount.
That's
so
true.
it's when you go for interviews as a young person, just try to ask before that big question comes up, what do you want to get paid? Do your research, because it also gives you some sort of leveraging, because you're new, you don't know what's going on, and they will take advantage of you. They'll be like, this kid doesn't know, let's pay her $200. That's more than enough. And they really will. They'll keep you in that specific grade because you didn't fight for it.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And then just another tip that I've heard, especially if you've been in an organization for some time and you're now asking for a raise, keep a record of everything. All the projects that you do, all the achievements that you do, even for yourself and your personal growth. One, it will help you. Don't wait to be assessed by your organization. Also have a personal assessment system. That's one thing I learned, to say that. Also have goals. You should be the one to tell them that I've upskilled in this way. Through this time, since I've been in your organization, I did my master's. I've been doing these kind of short courses. This is the work that I've done with this client, because you need to have the receipts to back things up. Another pro tip, write everything down. Keep a record of everything. One thing that I learned, especially in starting off a job, especially if you're working closely with a particular supervisor or someone who's giving you instructions, keep a little notebook with you to keep track of things. One, it inspires confidence in that person to say, okay, this person is listening to what I'm saying, they're paying attention. They feel like you're going to get the job done. Two, you keep a record and you keep yourself accountable. The worst thing you can do in a job is to forget deadlines and forget dates.
Amen.
Because now you're making yourself unreliable. Already, you must remember you're serving a purpose at your job. Don't get there like, oh, I'm a tourist, I'm just, happy to be here. If I do this, it doesn't matter. You have to take responsibility. You have to get things done. You have to be results oriented. Make yourself an asset. Make yourself, make it difficult for people to say, if you're not there, you're actually missed, because then they realize that you're actually holding down so many things.
Can I just say something on that? At my last job, right? So what they used to do is they used to do these assessments at the end of the year that, all the partners would be there. Right, and then they'll start from, in January you did this, in February you did this, in March you did this, right? So they had a record on me, right? But unfortunately for them, I had a record on them. Right? So there would be times when somebody misrepresented something. They said, oh, in March you did that, and the other. And then I would say, no, that's not how it played out. What happened was that, and that, right? If you think back, do you not think that how I then did whatever I did was based on what you told me? Because what you said was, and so then this is what I did to action what you said, right? Because a lot of the times you also find that people will want to throw you under the bus, particularly people in higher positions, want to throw you under the bus and not take accountability for what they have done, right? And it's easy to say, listen, I need this job, so I will take what you tell me, right? I will take the responsibility on. But sometimes if you know for sure that you did something as a result of a superior telling you, when your back is against the wall and you have to defend yourself, have a record to be able to say, no, I did this because you said. You said this. So I only did it because you told me to do it, or you told me this thing, so then I did that thing.
That's true.
You know, and you have to defend yourself. I think meekness, especially for us girls, we can be very meek. You know, we can be very, like you said, great. I'm just grateful to be here. So whatever you throw at me, I will take. But sometimes even that is the test, right? Sometimes the superior is looking at you to say, are you going to push back on this thing? What kind of characteristic and personality are you showing in the face of adversity? Do you fight back? Do you stand up for yourself? Or are you weak?
That's true. And that goes back again to one, setting your goals and what are you trying to do in that organization. If you're saying to yourself, look, I want to work my way up to the top and become a leader in this place. If you aren't able to display leadership characteristics, which comes with, decision making, sticking to your guns and things like that, then you're going to be seen as that girl who needs to be told what to do all the time. And that keeps you in a certain level. That keeps you in a certain pay grade because you are just saying, oh, give me instructions and I'll do. You're not exercising independent thought. So, one thing a helpful tip, confirm things in writing, even if it's not just your bosses, when you're dealing with clients, whatever industry that it is. If you guys have an agreement on phone, one thing I learned to do, straight after that phone call, get into your emails. I'm just confirming our telephone conversation where we agreed this and that and that and this and that, and map where you're going towards that. So keep record. Another helpful tip in anything that you're doing, ask a lot of questions. If you're not sure, ask. If you don't know how to do something, okay, but with this asking a lot of questions, I think take it with a pinch of salt because you also need to come out of the school mechanism of like, oh, I need to be told what to do, I need to do this. Do your own research. If you're asking, don't go and say, oh, how do I do this? No. First, go and try. Do something and say, I'm doing this, this is where I've gotten, and then either identify where you're stuck and ask for help with that, or ask for feedback on something that you've done. But the worst kind of an employee is someone who just come and be like, oh, how do I do it? And then, because you must think from the perspective of your employer. If you can't at least try and do an attempt at something, I'm thinking from the employer side, I'm thinking, so why are you here? Because then now I'm going to do it myself. If you're not going to at least have a go at something. So yeah, that's another thing. One thing that I also learned the hard way, maybe not the hard way, but one thing to remember or keep in mind, don't take things personally, especially if it's in the work environment. Especially if you're in a high intensity, really hard type of job. A lot of the time there's a lot of pressure and people can start to be a bit harsh, especially if you like make a mistake or something. The temptation is to then, take it personally and say, oh no, they hate me or this and this and that and that. That only takes you back. You need to always reframe your thinking and remember we're at work. This is not about you, it's not about me, it's about getting the job done. And once you keep your eyes on the prize, remember what it is that you're doing. It's very important, especially if you're going into an organization. Know what it is that everyone is trying to achieve. If you don't know, ask. Ask the bosses so that you know where you're going and what you're doing. Because then now when you don't perform or things don't go a certain way and you make it more about your personal relationships with particular people, that doesn't make you very durable in a place because one, people come and go in any organization. So the temptation is to think, okay, so-and-so looks like they're in charge and they call the shots. So let me suck up to so-and-so so that I can make it in my career. it doesn't work like that. You have to be a person of value to the organization.
Yeah, and just on that point, there's some people you actually start learning, okay, when it's now high stakes, this person is going to act buck wild. So just like now, because you now know your team, just try and make sure that you achieve your goal, regardless of what they're saying to you. Because I've had so many, well, not so many. I used to work with someone who was they'd get so agitated. They'd get so like, this is needed now. This is needed by the board, like ASAP. And because of that, you then start making mistakes. But now you get used to people like that. So you're like, I'm just going to put her by the side. I'm just going to work on what I need to do. This is my deadline. This is the time I need it to be done by. And it will make it easier for you because you can't take everything personally. Some people bring home to work and that's just, it won't work. So just try and like be professional. Just be like, yes, I'm working on it, and just zone them out. Yeah.
That's important. Also, I did like what you said, Amanda, about upskilling yourself. I think you should never get complacent in a place, right? So again, back to having very clear goals, right? I think personally that where you start off working is not necessarily where you end off working. And it shouldn't be. I don't think you should be so comfortable to be in a place for 20 years. Sorry, Mom, but like, you shouldn't be comfortable. You know, for me personally, I don't understand that I've been working at this place for 30 years. Are you joking? Why? You know, and I feel like you should be constantly upgrading your knowledge, right? Now we're in the new world of AI. Understanding what does that mean for you? How can you leverage this new thing for yourself, right? And if you are, say you finished and you only had your bachelor's, why not go do your honors? Why not go do your master's? Why not do a PhD, right? Why not do the short courses? And I think it's just always better to stay ahead of the times because chances are there's somebody who's going to know more than you anyway. So you need to always make sure that you are on top of your game, right? Because the other thing that you will soon realize is that you are replaceable. As quickly as you came is as quickly as you can go out, right? So you need to make sure that you make it so hard for them to kick you out, right? So if you're constantly learning, constantly doing research, take an extra hour just to learn something new, just to upgrade your skill. You know, make yourself, let's say, for example, with us, we are lawyers, so we draft all the time. Make sure you practice your drafting so that the next time your papers are in front of a judge, even the judge says, oh, I know who wrote this. You know, this definitely came from Amanda because it's so perfect. It's so good that there's not even a mistake at who did it, right? So constantly just upskilling yourself and adding value to yourself because you know what? If your company crumbles and you need to look for a new job, you need to be able to be marketable, right? You need to be able to go somewhere else and say, even if you want to leverage for a raise, for example, you can go and say, well, I've been offered this much by this other firm. If you people want to keep me, this is how much you need to match. But it only comes from when you are valuable.
That's true. I came across something recently that says work on yourself more than you work on your job.
Amen.
Because a job is a job. You're disposable. No matter how good you are, if a company, fails, something happens, you're disposable. It's just like that. They're not going to think twice about it. So there has to be a balance. Because if you work on yourself, it's a double-edged sword in that naturally you're going to be better at your job because you're coming as a better you every time. You're competing with yourself. You have goals that I want to get better. And as long as you're doing it in that organization, they're going to benefit from it. They're going to like you for it. Your competitors are going to recognize you. They're going to want you. You want to make yourself, like Kuda said, just make yourself so indisposable that, it takes you further. Yeah. Okay, so maybe let's talk a bit about, how you show up at work. I remember finishing school and then getting into the work environment, especially in such a strict, in a formal environment like ours, which is law. Clothes.
Your way.
You get to a point where you're like, okay, the jeans and the crop top don't work, but you look at your wardrobe and you've got nothing. So what helpful tips do you have for the girlies about showing up at work and why it matters to look a certain way? Or if it matters?
Unfortunately, in Sim, it really matters how you show up at work. Like, I can't even think of someone coming into the office and not being formally dressed and being taken seriously.
That's true.
Unfortunately, that's our environment. It's not like most people do remote work and all of that stuff here. So everyone's expected to dress accordingly. And if you don't show up show up looking your best part, people are not going to take you that. Unfortunately for women, it's a bit worse. The criticism is worse for us in terms of, hey, she was wearing a skirt that wasn't so new, or she was wearing those, I've seen people wear like thigh-high boots. People are like, excuse me,
where
what
you
is
going?
this? What is this? I don't know what the
How
beef
not
is.
at work? Not at work.
I honestly don't know what the beef is, but yeah, people.
I mean,
get
I
so
own them
much
and
flack.
I've worn them at work, but on a Friday when it's casual Friday. But not
how you wear
during
them is important.
how you wear them actually is more important
How you wear them is important.
than
Important.
wearing how you wear them.
But yeah,
But clothes are important. Honestly,
clothes are very important.
Clothes
So
are
when
important.
I came back, my mom was like, I thought she was being so weird, but she was like, we're going shopping. We need clothes
Mine
for your
too.
interviews. We're going shopping. And I thought she was being so extra because I was like, I have clothes. And I really didn't have. I had nothing. I had nothing. I had like a skirt and like a shirt. And I thought, this is interview worthy. She was like, girl,
no.
You playing games.
this is Zimbabwe. People
Also-
want you to look.
Pro tip: there's a bureau in Chinoi Street
Amen.
that sells corporate clothes. You can get shirts for $1. You can get skirts for $3. You can get dresses for $5. You do not have to break the bank, guys, to look like a corporate
Amen to
baddie.
that.
There's a nice bureau out there in Chinoi Street. I'm telling you, it saves lives.
Yeah.
It saves lives.
And
But also what I did in my final year of uni, so I had a group of friends, and every year we used to, when it's your birthday, people buy you gifts and things. I made it a point to say in my final year, everyone's buying me something for work. Right? Don't buy me socks, don't buy me cute dresses, buy me work clothes. And honestly, that saved me because when I came back, I came back in December, almost towards the end. I started working the beginning of January. Those were the clothes that I wore. Right. So, guys, sometimes I know that I do take myself way too seriously, but like that honestly saved me because I made it a point to say in my final year of uni, I'm only buying clothes for work. And it maybe also even helped my mindset to say that also means you need to have a job. Right. So it pushed me to be able to say, I need to wear these clothes somewhere. So I need to be able to apply and get a job.
Okay, just a quick one. Pumps, yay or nay?
No. Hi. No. You don't have to wear heels every day. Listen, you don't have to wear heels every day. But
those
Lord,
loafers, I'm
loafers
sorry.
will save your life.
Loafers are for
And
me.
do heels every day.
For us at work, we're not like
No.
super formal. I would say we're like formal adjacent.
Thinking word of the day.
So, but it's only now personally where I'm like, okay, no, I need to upgrade my wardrobe, like my work wardrobe. Fine, there's no pressure from work to dress a certain way.
Yeah.
But it's now pressure from myself. Like, I need to look like my age.
Yeah.
You know, like, I can't be looking like I just came from uni 2 days ago, you know, that kind of thing. So,
also keep a blazer in your office. Keep one even behind your chair. Just
Even
always
in your
have a
car.
backup. I have shoes. I have my heels in case there's a meeting that just shows up. Put your heels in your cupboard somewhere. Put a blazer in your cupboard. Just make sure that you have at least a black blazer and a black pair of heels. Always somewhere. But also, just before we end, can we just quickly talk about how to navigate your relationship? So as a girly, how do you navigate your relationship with your male co-workers?
So, okay, from my perspective, right, one tip that I had was don't sleep with the boss. Should go without saying, but I don't know. For me, right, from starting work, you know, when you're a woman, it's so complicated. The terrain is complicated. They don't want to see us there. They don't want to see us win. Already, you're working with so many biases that are working against you. Never get into the trap to think that you can do certain things that guys are doing and get away with it.
Amen. You can't.
As a woman, your mistakes are harder to come back from. Guys make mistakes and they laugh about it, haha, cool, and whatever. When it's you already, people look at you with the impression that, what is she going to do? You're not going to make it. When you do show up and you're able to do certain things, there's always that thing, what is she doing? She's sleeping her way to the top, this and that and that. The moment you just mix yourself up with that the one time, that's it. That's it.
Your reputation is in the drain.
That's it.
And it goes round, hey? Like, you have to remember that, for example, whether you're doing law or you're doing accounting or you are doing whatever, the fraternity is small. As big as you think it is, your name will go round. I've had people being like, oh, you work with so-and-so. Oh, I've heard that 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, no, because that becomes your entire reputation. And anything to bring you down as a hun, they will do it. They will do it. I agree. Keep it professional. Always. Don't even leave a hint of, you know, sometimes being flirty helps. Right? Sometimes you feel like, if I'm being flirty, he will give me the big contracts, he'll give me the big jobs. Don't do it. Don't do it. It does not serve you any purpose. And personally, like, I've had experiences where, even with my clothes, right, I used to suffer a lot of harassment from my male co-workers. So even with my clothes, I changed them to try to be as baggy as I could, trying to be as unattractive. I used to wear makeup and I just was like, no, Vaseline is all you get, you know? And like, even then, it didn't stop them, you know? So you also, if you do feel really, really uncomfortable, obviously, if there is somebody that you can tell that's helpful, but that's tricky because once it gets to the top, it might also cost you your job, and it's unfair. If you know, sometimes if you complain about harassment, men don't take it well, you know. So it has to be a way for you to make it very explicit to say, I'm not interested. I'm here to work. I'm here to just be professional. And to be fair, I never want to tell anyone to leave their job, but sometimes you might have to, because if you are dealing with a boys' club, which is everywhere. If you're dealing with a boys' club, sometimes you have to say, listen, even this for me, the harassment is too much and I can't do with it. But try as best as you can. Don't try to be hama with people, you know. Oh, this one is my sekuru. Oh, this one is bamkuru. Oh, this one is my brother because we have the same totem. Leave that at home, you know. But at work, be as professional. Don't close the doors. Don't make it even suggest that you have any kind of interest in what is happening.
That's true. What about dating your co-workers?
Leave it alone. Don't do it.
It's a hard no.
I think it's like a Jim and Pam situation.
Sometimes it works, guys, but yeah, Personally, don't do, especially because worse when the man is the superior.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
The sad thing with that is you're never gonna win. Just get it in your head. You don't win in that situation. When it's you or him, you're gone. It's nice for a time, but not a long time. Just don't do it. Just don't do
I
it.
can't even imagine. Like, there's so many rumors that go around when you've decided to do that. You've
Even when you're not doing it.
Yes.
Even when you're not doing
There's
it.
rumors that you are doing it. And you're like, what? What do you mean? I just went to court with this man. We are working. Suddenly it's blown up. It's now something else. So, guys, navigating that, I just avoid it. I can't.
And
It
also,
doesn't
we're
make
not saying
sense.
don't be friends with them. Be friendly.
Yeah.
Don't be friends.
Also have
be friendly.
boundaries.
It's just boundaries.
Yeah. I think I've been very lucky at work. I've always worked with my supervisors have been more on the mature side where it's like, they're old enough to be my dad, and it's people who have that sense, it's always that there's a certain kind of character. And the thing is, as girls, we know the guys that I'm talking about. Avoid them like the plague. Don't do it.
Avoid.
No casual things, no whatever. If it's in the office, if it's office socialization, yes, but keep a distance. Even in the way that you act, don't let these guys have even an idea that this is something that you can do, even if it means just being a bit extra until you've set those boundaries, and then you can have a working relationship going from there. But don't play like that. I think the most awkward situation I've had, I won't name and shame, but it was a judge.
Baby girl. First of all, can we do claps for Chino's voice?
It's come back.
Well, tell me about this judge.
I didn't know what to do, guys, because it's a tough situation. But I think I managed to clip it before anything even happened. So I can't even say anything happened. But you, as a woman, you know you have that sense. Trust that
Something's
sense
about to
because you know
happen.
you're right. I was just very straight with it. When you're formal calling somebody sir, and then it's like, if it's okay, then maybe we could do. I'm very uncomfortable with that. I made it so awkward to the extent that he was just like, okay, and they just like, this one, I'm not taking this. And I think rather be that hand. Sometimes you feel like you're missing an opportunity. Sometimes people will dangle certain things, or sometimes
That's
even
the
push you
problem.
into a difficult situation. It's a hard choice, but pick the high road.
One thing that I learned from one of my mentors, who's also a female in the legal space, I learned very late because I used to take it. Like, they would hit on me at work and I used to just laugh it off and be like, oh, haha.
Yeah.
But she said to me, if they're doing that, they're not respecting you. They don't respect your mind. They don't respect who you are. So make it a point that they might not like you, but they have to respect you.
Yeah.
And she has always been like, she's that like hard knock kind of person where you might not necessarily like her, but boy, the work she does, you have to respect it because she's just a good ass lawyer, And for me, I had to learn that to say, I don't care if you like me or not, but what you will do is respect the work that I do. And you will keep coming back to me because you know I'm the only person that can do this.
That's true.
So I don't care how you personally feel about me, and I'm sorry I rejected you, but...
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Just on that, let's talk a little bit about the female to female dynamic.
Toxic.
Oh my gosh. So, females, I'll just tell a story. I'll tell a story. So there was like a situation where I'm supervising a new female, right, in the workplace. Like, so I'm telling you what to do, but you think that for some reason I'm bullying you. And I'm like, no, baby girl, don't take this personally.
What did you do, Chido?
No, do you know what? It's like one of those things where it's like, I tell you what to do, but you don't do it, right? Because you're sizing me for some reason. You think, how could this girl be telling me what to do? And then I'd like ask, is there a problem? Like, is there a problem? Do you have a problem taking instructions from me? And then they're like, no, I just feel like maybe you're just like pulling your weight or whatever. And I'm like, but
She said that to you.
yes. And I was so defeated. I was like, okay, so, I mean, I am your superior already. And I am supervising you. I am teaching you. I'm basically training you on how to do your work. So if you cannot take instructions from me because you think I'm just another girl,
Yeah.
then
what?
Then what are we doing?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I know that I'm not like, I don't often take myself like seriously. Like I'll be like cracking jokes or whatever. And so maybe I thought maybe, oh, maybe she just thinks this one who's always joking around, you know, she doesn't know what she's doing or whatever. And then now I'm telling her what to do and she's like, You? And I'm like, yes, me. So it's hard to work with other females.
So I think we've gone through a lot of tips. Obviously, we didn't, it's not an exhaustive list. But yeah, we're going to post some of the stuff. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. You guys have come through. This is just a shout out to the OGs who've made it this far in the episode.
Shout out.
We recognize y'all. As told by us, is really just, a recognition that everybody has a voice. We're speaking to people like us. We're talking amongst ourselves. And personally, or even all of us, were very touched by, especially those of you who get back to us and, get into these chats. So it's awesome. Let's keep the conversations going. Yeah, all the best with life and whatever. Bye.
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 There's no fun facts this time. What's up?